Rusty, the Rusty Humphries Rebellion.
So everybody up in arms. Everybody is crazy, angry, and rightfully so about the shootings in Roseburg, Oregon. Again, that one hit very close to home for me. If you didn't hear the last show, my daughter and son-in-law go to a community college less than an hour from there. And when the initial reports came in, it just said a community college in Southern Oregon, and there's not a lot of community colleges in Southern Oregon. So it was a pretty hair-raising 10, 15 minutes while I waited for my daughter to get back to me. And, I didn't tell you this. She called me yesterday, or I guess it was Monday, and said, classes were canceled at our school. Why? Bomb scare. They had to clear out the whole school. So I guess idiots in the area are going to use that for a little copycat fun. Boy, I hate people sometimes. There are some people I just can't stand them. There's some people I do like. As a matter of fact, my next guest is somebody I like. He is a full-time writer. He's written a bunch of gun books. Here's something I didn't know, Alan. He wrote the business plan that raised $5 million in venture capital that launched the in-flight catalog Sky Mall. Alan Korwin, welcome to the Rusty Humphries Rebellion. Is that true you did that?
Well, I wouldn't lie about something like that on my bio. People think about me as the gun guy, but I'm basically a writer. I've written all kinds of things, and yes, that's a feather in my hat.
Now, did you come up with it, or some guy said, hey, can you write this for me?
Oh, I worked with Bob Worsley, who dreamed that company up and found me. I was a freelance writer. I still am. And we put that business plan together. It was a brilliant idea. There were all sorts of things in the Sky Mall plan, some of which never came to pass. And he raised millions and millions of dollars, $5 million initially, $12 million when the company launched. And Sky Mall, of course, was an amazing feat.
Yeah, I spent way too much money in that company. Sitting there in that airplane, having nothing to do. Back when they had phones in the plane, man, I paid probably for your kids to go to college, or his kids.
He took the idea of the phone in the plane, and not just a merchandise catalog, but a mall. He took all the best merchandising companies and put them all in the catalog, one after another, so that they were they were standing in line. Hanukkah Schlemmer, can I get into an airplane? What a captive audience. Bob did a wonderful job and then became a senator in the Arizona State Senate, which is where he still is.
You know what I don't get about the airline industry is, okay, 9/11 happens, and it was terrible. I know we changed a bunch of stuff. But we actually had people on the phones that were in the planes describing what was going on. So what does the government do? Let's take the phones out of the planes. What is that all about? Any idea?
I really don't know, but if you're asking me why the government doesn't make sense, I think that's the government's role.
Well, we had dinner a week or two ago, and went to a very cool thing, the Constitution Day event down the street from my house. It was fun hanging out with you.
That was wonderful.
I was online and noticed that Ted Nugent was quoting you, and I went, wait a second, that's the guy I just had dinner with. First of all, this whole thing that happened in Southern Oregon, it happened from about an hour from where my daughter lives. She goes to a community college in Southern Oregon, and this hit pretty close to home. And the liberals are saying, let's just get rid of guns. Alan, you're the gun guy. Maybe that's what we should do. Let's just get rid of all of them. We're going to round them up. We'll put them in a fire, and this will be done.
I'm in favor of that. Criminals first.
Okay.
Let's get all the criminals' guns and put them in a fire. Actually, let's get all the criminals' guns and give them to the police. Or let's just get all the criminals' guns and put all the criminals in prison. I'd be in favor of that. Let's start today. In fact, I put out an editorial yesterday. You know, I do these at gunlaws.com. Let's get all the criminals in Chicago who are murdering each other, and let's at least bring them to trial. And I suggested that Obama's going to do that. He's going to stop calling for background checks, and he's going to go after the criminals who are murdering each other, but it was a satire. And I had everybody going. I had one reporter call me and said, tell me more about the federal funds they're giving to the Chicago police to find and apprehend and bring to trial all these murderers. And I said, didn't you read the end where it says, we now return you to your regularly scheduled commercials? He hadn't read that far.
Okay, let me ask you this. Why is it so hard to understand? I mean, it's a simple, the simple phrase of criminals own guns and only criminals own guns. What is that? I forget that phrase. But you know what I'm
phrase is if you take away all the guns, only the criminals will own guns. Something like that.
Something like that.
Sticker logic.
Right, but it's fair logic. I mean, why is that so hard to understand? Why is it hard for people to say, gosh, criminals are bad people, so they use guns to do bad things?
It's not hard to understand, Rusty. We understand it. People with a brain understand it. Liberals don't get it. And what happens is people who can't think straight become liberals. And they hang out with other people who can't think straight. And it's a self-selecting set. So they reinforce each other. And they go, let's just take all the guns away and we'll all be safe. And they don't think, well, let's just take the guns away from the criminals. They don't think that far. And if you suggest it to them, they think, you're just a member of the NRA and you're evil. And they can't think in a straight line for long enough to get it right.
Okay, all right, let me ask you this. And by the way, Alan Korwin is here. He's written a number of gun books, the Arizona Gun Owner's Guide, State Guides for California, Florida, Texas, Virginia, the Unabridged Federal Guides, Gun Laws of America. I mean, how many books have you written, like 400?
Thank you for that. No, I've written 14 books, 10 of them on gun law, and I've got a couple others coming. You can see them at gunlaws.com, and you can write to me at gunlaws.com. Right. Be glad to communicate with you.
Okay, gunlaws.com. So what if, let's say we rounded up the guns now, and, the criminals are going to keep their guns, but after a few years, those guys don't probably take care of them very well, so they probably would fall apart. Would that possibly work?
Well, when you say if they rounded up the guns, who is they?
All right, so the state, the Sheriff Joe Arpaio comes to my house. Okay, Rusty, I'm taking your gun. Okay, Sheriff Joe, I spent a lot of money on this. What, do I get any money back? You'll get nothing like it. Okay. All the sheriffs
So in other words, you're talking about completely trashing the Constitution. No Fourth Amendment. So your right to be secure in your private possessions and private property is gone.
Okay,
come in your house and take your stuff.
Yes, they're going to change the Constitution. Yes, they're going to change the Constitution just like they changed it for slavery. I'm using liberal logic here, so I want you to answer it. So,
well, then America is over. America's just over. You can't own property. The government can take it because they decide to take it, and the front end of the gun is supposed to protect you from that. If they try and do that all over the country and simply take your property, they're supposed to be shot, and we have a revolution. I don't want to see that happen.
And the truth of the matter is, a gun in the hand of a good person, I think it was the Lone Ranger that used to call his gun the peacemaker. It wasn't the troublemaker, it was the peacemaker. By him having the gun, the bad guy wasn't able to do what he wanted to do.
And I have a book about that. It's about people who are gunless right now. It's called Your First Gun. Should you get one and join 16 million safely armed American homes? This never makes the news. There are 16 million homes that have firearms, and it's perfectly okay.
Yes,
and
but Alan, it's far more dangerous to have a gun in the home. People are killing themselves accidentally. Babies picking up the guns, blowing their brains out. It's dangerous to have a gun in a home. I've heard Al Franken tell me that many times.
Al Franken, look at your source. That's the propaganda that comes out of the mainstream media. What you don't get is that guns save lives, guns stop crime, guns protect you, guns are good, guns are why America's still free, guns stop crime constantly, and the media has a policy of not running stories about guns that do good. I've asked reporters, when was the last time you did a story on the good that guns do? And they look at me and they go, the good that guns do? what do you mean exactly? They don't even know. We run a column in USA Today with self-defense stories that we pay for to put this in the paper because they have a policy of not running stories on self-defense. So when people save their lives with a gun, it doesn't appear. And the people who read it, 1.3 million people, never see a story about a person who saves their lives. We had one about a black woman who was shot by two black thugs. She was shot 4 times. She takes out her own gun and shoots both criminals, and they're all arrested. I mean, the 2 criminals are arrested, and all 3 of them end up in the same hospital. Now, that's a wonderful story. You have a hero. You have blood and guts. You have flashy lights. You have people with shiny badges, but the newspaper won't run it. So we ran it and paid for the space. Can you imagine what would happen if these stories ran because reporters were ethical and did their own jobs?
Oh, and it's funny, we're seeing more videos of things just like that online, Facebook and stuff. And it always seems like when a good guy has a gun, man, those criminals, they're cowards. They run away fast.
Well, some run away, some fight back, but for the most part, a gun in the hands of a good person stops a crime, saves a life, prevents a rape. The statistics are overwhelmingly good, but the media suppresses that. And I had an Associated Press reporter tell me that he can't run stories like that because the AP bureau chief won't allow it. Why won't he allow it? Because it could provoke copycats.
Huh. Okay, here's my theory on what we should do in the schools. You tell me where I'm right or where I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, Alan Korwin, you're the gun expert, so you tell me I'm wrong, okay?
Gun law expert, but go ahead.
Okay, here's my well, I don't know, we'd have to change laws. So I keep hearing that teachers don't make enough money. I can agree or disagree, but they don't make enough money. So we say, okay, teachers, here's the deal. If you want to make a little extra cash, there's going to be a summer program. The summer program is going to teach you how to handle a firearm, and you'll have classroom situations if something bad happens. Then you don't know if 1 teacher or 50 teachers in the school have guns. Then Mr. Crazy comes in, and he doesn't know if he's going to get taken out right away or if only 1 or 2 people have guns. It certainly would scare away criminals a lot more than the gun-free zone with the guy with the pepper spray in Roseburg, Oregon.
And you want to know where that's wrong?
Yeah, have I done something wrong here, or do you think okay, he's on his own?
Well, in Texas, you'd just be giving away money because the teachers would be lining up for this class without the extra pay.
Good.
In New York, nobody would take the class because the teachers are all hoplophobic. They're afraid of guns. They don't think guns are good. They would fight to keep the program from starting. See, teachers are a self-selected set, just like reporters. And they've been brainwashed in education system schools where they're left-leaning, they're Marxist inculcated, and they believe the state should take care of you. So the idea that they would be able to protect themselves goes against every fiber of their being. And we see this. The country is bifurcated. It's divided between the self-sufficient and the dependent. And people who think like you and I do, if I was in one of these situations, I would so want a gun, and it would help protect me. And some of these other people want to hide or lock the door. Let's go into lockdown. Lockdown will save us. And let's put up a sign that says no guns allowed, and that makes them feel safe. And it does nothing but allow the criminal to walk in undeterred. They don't get it. Like I said earlier, some people aren't smart enough to figure this out. And they hang out together and they become liberals and they look for policies that simply won't work and have dissolved the American way. I have a paper up at gunlaws.com called The American Way. It's linked right on the home page on the position papers button. And it talks about the way America used to be. And you read it and you go, I remember that. We used to be for individual rights and individual responsibility and entrepreneurship and self-starting and capitalism and profit motive and self-interest and doing things ourselves. And you go, yeah, I remember that. And now it's the government should take care of us and welfare and not caring about the other guy and where's my welfare check and how can I get benefits? I don't want benefits. I want a chance to take care of things on my own.
I do remember there was a president that said something like, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Wasn't there a guy that said that once?
Yeah, and then there was a guy who said a chicken in every pot. And we have Clinton. You remember the name Clinton, the one who put the background check in place and now wants another background check. She thinks, along with Bernie Sanders, thinks everybody should go to college for free. Well, who pays for that? In capitalism, in free enterprise, you generate wealth. You create wealth. In socialism, you confiscate wealth. Which system's going to work better? In the American way, you want to create wealth. In socialism and Marxism, you want to confiscate wealth from the people generating it. That is a disincentive to creating the wealth in the first place.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, I don't mean to interrupt, but we're running short time here. Okay, tell me about the background check, why that's bad. I mean, it seems like a good idea. I don't want crazy people getting a gun. Isn't that a good idea to see who's trying to buy a weapon?
Well, I don't want crazy people to have a gun, and I don't want people wanted in 4 states for murder to have a gun. I don't want desperate, psychotic criminals to have a gun. Nobody does. We all agree on that. But should innocent people have to register with the government to own property? No, I don't think that's good. I don't think that's the American way. The way the criminal background check is set up now, you have to give your name and address to the government to buy a gun. That's bad. The background check system set up now is a gun registration system that puts the government in control of you, your right to self-defense, the balance of power, and control of tyranny. They get a list of everybody who owns a gun. That's a very bad thing. The background check system should be run like wanted posters, where the dealer gets a list of the prohibited people, so that if a person walks into a gun store, the dealer looks up who's prohibited and sells you the gun if you're not on the list.
Okay, so it would be a database of felons, criminals, people that have mental issues.
Which we have now.
Okay.
But the FBI hoards it and keeps it so that you have to call them and send 200 million names to them, which they record, saying you bought a gun. They should send a list of prohibited people to the dealers, password protected, encrypted, updated every minute, every hour, whatever they want. But the dealer, who are trusting to sell guns, for Pete's sake, the dealer then has the list like a set of wanted posters. And when some badass walks in to buy a gun, the dealer looks him up and says, I can't sell it to you. And the system works just as well, but it costs 90% less because you don't have to maintain 900 people in a room and pay them all like the FBI is doing when it collects all your information. So it's called the bid system. It's posted at gunlaws.com. I didn't invent it. 2 guys invented it. They have credit. It's the BIDS, blind identification system. You send the prohibited persons list to the dealers and they look you up instead of sending all the innocent people to the FBI who will record you.
Okay, that's very fascinating. Let me get another one here. What about, that guy had 13 guns. And, maybe we should have a limit on how many guns somebody should own. Maybe that's not fair or good.
Well, the mayor got that one, and boy, did he bridle when they asked him that. He says, well, we all have a lot of guns out here. I wouldn't use the word arsenal, which they like to use. They kill us with language. You're a gunman. They want to do that one. That's gender-specific and biased, and it demeans guns and men. The guy's a murderer, not a gunman. But so yes, so how many guns should we have? What's the approved number? Who's in charge of approving how many shoes you own? How big your refrigerator is? Do you need a refrigerator the size of a closet, Rusty? I don't think so.
I think those same leftists would say no, you shouldn't have that much, and they'd probably say if you have to have a gun, maybe one. How about one?
That's the socialist communist model, where somebody in the Bureau of what you're allowed to have decides you can have this much of this size and only this kind. That's absolutely wrong. That is not the American way. You can have 2 small bullets that don't go very fast. This is what you're allowed to have. That's just wrong.
Okay.
If you're really into firearms, you know a target pistol, a carry pistol, a home defense pistol, a competition pistol, a collector pistol, this caliber, that caliber. I'm up to 8. I haven't even started, and I'm only up to pistols. Maybe you want a revolver. Maybe you want a classic revolver and a cowboy revolver. I'm up to 12. Now let's talk about rifles. How about shotguns? There's nothing wrong with having as many firearms as you want, like a woman wants a lot of shoes. You know, there's people who don't have shoes. How dare you have so many shoes? There's nobody in charge of that in America.
All right, but didn't we, I mean, you created the Arizona Gun Owners Guide, and, you know, back in the old Wild, Wild West days, Tombstone, Arizona, I'll be your huckleberry. Didn't we try this where everybody could have a gun, and wasn't it terrible? Everybody was just getting shot in the middle of the street?
Yeah, Tombstone was a very peaceful town, huh? You know, guns used to be much easier to get. There was no restriction. Prior to 1968, there was no paperwork. There were no background checks. You bought guns mail order. Sears Roebuck catalog had 12 pages of guns. You walked into Montgomery Ward and you just bought firearms. There were no age limits. Guns are much more tightly restricted now. The problem is, why are people going crazy? Why would a person decide to go shoot innocent people in numbers like they're doing? That's a different problem. That's the collapse of our social order. The culture is deteriorating. On nightly TV, you have mass, hellacious, gory, disgusting criminal acts, one after the other, as if it's normal. That's having an effect. Not how many guns you own.
Have you studied why there's been this increase? Do you think it's television? Is it video games? Is it the drugs that kids are put on? Is it the drugs they're taking for fun? What do you think?
Above.
Okay,
all of the above. You know, I'm in a band called the Cartridge Family Band,
right?
And we do political parody, and one of the songs talks about that. The nurse gives you a pill, and then you run around and kill, and they put you on TV. Almost all these mass murderers were on psychoactive drugs. Now, coincidence is not causation, but it certainly makes a very interesting case that all these mass murderers are on psychoactive drugs. And the TV, go watch 1940 and 1950 black and white movies. When they shoot somebody, they die off screen. There's no blood. They don't shoot them, so they do this death dance where they sort of dance around in a hail of bullets. There was none of that. Now there's a constant showing of that. It affects people. Of course it affects people. And video games, the whole idea is to have fun shooting people as many times as you can. You think this does not have an effect? 10 years ago, the media was denying that copycat was a thing that was real. Now they're all talking about the copycat effect. You think this doesn't have an effect? How can you possibly argue that it doesn't have an effect? And the people who want to disarm the public and change the balance of power in the United States are arguing to take everybody's gun away when there's one crazy person. They want to take your gun, Rusty. They want to take my gun. They want to take guns from everybody who didn't do anything. And the public objects.
Alan Korwin is his name. The website is gunlaws.com, right?
That is.
And is there a book that you say, okay, you got to get this first? You got to get this book. What's the best book that you got to get of an Alan Korwin book?
Well, After You Shoot talks about what happens if you're, God forbid, ever in a shooting and you don't want to end up in more trouble than the criminal. There are things to do so that you don't end up convicting yourself, making your situation worse. There's loopholes in self-defense law, and After You Shoot applies to everybody who can hear this broadcast, this podcast. And then we have books for the gun laws in your individual state.
I'm blanking the guy, Trayvon Martin, and who's the guy that shot him? Shame on me for forgetting his name.
Zimmerman. Trayvon Martin's the guy who looks like Obama's son.
Right.
And George Zimmerman is the innocent guy who defended himself against the black thug.
Although he keeps getting in trouble, so I don't know what his deal is. But if he read your book, maybe it would have been better for him?
Well, I think the media and the President of the United States ganged up on him. The President practically convicted him on TV before anything went on. But he was a block watch captain and was attacked by a guy who was out buying drugs in the rain. So the facts of the case really went towards the innocent block watch captain, but the President of the United States said that this thug who was suspended from school 3 times. Were you ever suspended from school?
Well, I did call Kenny Appletoft the popcorn pig one in 5th grade, and I got a spanking, but I never got kicked out.
What would have happened to you if you were suspended? I'd have been in so much trouble. This kid was suspended 3 times. He was caught with burglary tools.
Didn't he? He punched the bus driver in the face, didn't he?
You want to hear one of the biggest lies that ever went on?
Yeah.
They kept saying the kid had iced tea. All he had was iced tea. Do you remember that?
It was iced tea and Skittles.
Iced tea and Skittles. You know he had no iced tea? He had a can of watermelon juice. I have a can of it right here. He had a can of watermelon juice. The media is so corrupt that they didn't want to say a black kid had watermelon juice because it's a stereotype. But he had watermelon juice, a can of Arizona Beverage Company watermelon juice.
Arizona tea. Okay. So why does that matter?
It's not Arizona tea. It's Arizona Beverage Company watermelon juice out of Westbury, Long Island. There's no tea on the label, and everybody wants to believe it was tea. That's how corrupt the media is. And when I said earlier, if it's about guns and it's in the media, it's probably completely wrong. Trayvon Martin had no tea. He had watermelon juice, and everything else about that case was that accurate. And when I was on CNN, I didn't want to go anywhere past all their other questions till they were willing to admit and accept that Trayvon Martin had no tea. But they couldn't get past that lie that they propagated up until today. How about that? Where else is there accuracy on anything gun? It's not there. Guns save lives, guns stop crime, guns protect you, and they never run that.
What are you finding out about this shooting in Roseburg? You know, we've seen CNN lighten the color of the skin of the shooter. So we know that's pretty dishonest. Anything else that the news is still unfolding, but what have you found out about that case?
Well, I can tell you that yesterday 16 black people were murdered, but they didn't make the news, and we're still talking about 9 people 1,000 miles away. And the day before, 16 black people were murdered, but we're not talking about them. They haven't been caught. They haven't been brought to justice. There's no news, no reports, no police investigation. I know that tomorrow 16 black people will be murdered by 16 other black people, and they won't have any news. And every day since then, every day after then, 16 more black people will be murdered by 16 other black people. They won't be caught. They won't be tried. They won't be investigated. And you're talking about 9 people in Oregon. You're the problem, my friend. How about that?
Wow. Well, now somebody's going to say, man, that kind of sounded racist. I mean, you said black people killing black people on this black people. I mean, that's pretty.
And you know what? I'll say to that?
What?
The person who charges racism is the racist. I'm just being factual. You're still talking about 9 people 1,000 miles away, a week after it happened, and all the black people where Black Lives Matter that I'm trying to bring up, you're calling names. And I like you, Rusty, but you're the problem. And Anderson Cooper is the problem, and Wolf Blitzer's the problem. He's still talking about 9 people 1,000 miles away, 2,400 miles away. He's still talking about them, vilifying guns, calling the guy a gunman instead of a murderer, which is sexist, a gunman. He's a murderer. He's
I agree with that. Now, for me, Alan, one of the reasons why this is important is my daughter goes to community college in Southern Oregon, and less than an hour away from that school. And yesterday, they had a bomb threat. So this is personal for me. So I'm not part of the problem.
I hear you, and it's personal for me because I walk around on the streets, and I have a daughter, and she got out of college, and I'm glad she's out, but she'll have kids sooner or later, God willing.
Do you
And
walk
they'll have
around?
to go to school.
Do you walk around with a gun?
I don't ever answer that question.
Oh, okay.
That's an invasion of privacy. Why would you even ask it? You're a news man.
I'm just asking.
You can go ahead and ask. I don't have to answer. I get that sometimes. I go, cool, why won't you answer it? I say, I'll tell you why. Where do you keep your jewelry?
Okay, that's fair. Do you
How
think
much money do you keep in the house? Why won't you answer that? It's a fair question. I'm the reporter. I ask the questions. You mean, we will ask the questions and you will answer the questions.
Well, I have $7 in the house right now, cash.
Where do you keep it?
I got to have a, in my wallet, in my pocket, because
my
wallet got stolen. My wallet got stolen.
Do you have any other valuables in the house? And can you tell me live on the air right now where they are, please? You see where I'm going with
Sure,
this.
absolutely.
And the reporters don't get it. They think it's okay to say where are your guns. I had a left-wing website that's moving up the charts and doing very well for themselves, and they wanted to know where I keep my guns and how I keep my guns, and even if I have guns. I haven't admitted to you that I have guns.
No, yeah. I have guns.
But don't come into my house late at night.
Well, last question, and this is a good one. Is there a gun that you would suggest for people to have in their house just for what you just said, don't come into the house in the middle of the night? Is there a particular one you go, that's a good one?
I get that question all the time. And all your questions have been good ones. You said this is a good one. All your questions have been good ones, Rusty, and I've had a lot of fun with this with you.
Good.
We should do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
That book that I mentioned, Your First Gun,
Yeah.
I get this question all the time. And that book is good for people who already have a lot of guns and are very savvy because it deals with these things in a logical way that many people can't put into words, and I've gotten pretty good with words. If you're asking what kind of gun should I get, the answer is take a class. Because in a class, you'll find out better what your needs are, and you'll be able to try out a bunch of guns. Because it's like asking me what kind of shoes should I buy. House shoes, pool shoes, track shoes, dress shoes, man, woman, do you want brown? Do you need sneakers? You can't answer that question. If you're asking it, it shows that you should be not asking it. You have other things. A rifle, shotgun, handgun, target pistol, self-defense pistol, carry pistol, revolver. You know, on the west side of town here in Arizona, there's a gun store that is buying pistols, semi-automatic sidearms, because the folks get older and they can't work the slide. It takes a lot of hand strength. So they're trading them in for revolvers, which don't take as much but still need a certain amount of strength. And the recoil, depending on how big you are, you want more or less. And then they talk about stopping power, and they don't even know what that means. And stopping power doesn't matter because shot placement is more important. One of the rules of gun safety, there's several sets of rules of gun safety, is the first shot doesn't count as much as the first hit. And people haven't heard these things. They've only heard the NRA's gun safety rules for not firing a gun, which is treat every gun as if it's loaded, keep your finger off the trigger till your sights are on the target, know your target and what's beyond it. That's for not shooting a gun. The rules for shooting a gun, Lovejoy's rules of gun safety are, you must have a gun, your gun must be loaded and ready to fire, the first hit counts more than the first shot. There are different safety rules. So if you're asking, what kind of gun should I get? The answer is take a class or get this book, Your First Gun, which we sell real cheap in groups of 4 so gun owners can buy them and give them to their gunless friends and help spread the word and get information out that the media doesn't supply. And you do that at gunlaws.com.
Yeah, the book is Your First Gun, Should You Buy One and Join 60 Million Safely Armed American Homes, packed with good info for every firearm owner by Alan Korwin. Alan Korwin
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing that the media never touches the subject of what kind of gun should I get? Should I get a gun? Where would I put the thing? Should I tell my spouse? The media never talks about getting a gun.
Now, see, I asked you those questions, and you called me one of the bad guys, see?
Well, I'm making a point. I'm having fun with you because I know you can take it.
And by the way, you know why? You know, I haven't bought your first gun. You know why, don't you?
No.
My whole body's a weapon. So yeah,
there
for
you
me,
go.
I'm taken care of. But that's me. Everybody else, they should buy 4 of these and give them to their friends. That's what I think.
Wouldn't it be interesting to so far Wolf Blitzer and Anderson Cooper haven't had me on their air, and I've been working on that for a while. Wouldn't it be nice to be on Anderson Cooper and say, Anderson, how many guns do you own? When was the last time you were at a range? I mean, every good American should go to a range and practice.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming you have a gun. I mean,
I do.
in your situation, don't you have a gun, Anderson? Do you know how to shoot? Do you go to the range regularly like everybody? I mean, guns save lives. You must know that, right? What kind of gun do you recommend for a first-timer? Do you think people who don't have guns should get one? Why or why not? And see where he stands on this. And he'll say, I'm asking the question.
You know, the only problem with your whole theory is being on those shows.
Tell me.
Nobody will see them.
You mean they'll edit it?
No, because nobody watches CNN. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Alan Korwin, he's a good guy. His website, again, gunlaws.com, gunlaws.com, and go check out a number of great books that he has on the website. Alan, great talking to you, brother. Let's get together soon, and I want to go see the Cartridge Family in concert sometime soon.
We're playing in Tucson at the annual meeting this coming Saturday. And we just rehearsed until my fingers were sore. We had a great time, and we sit and have these conversations. I think we talk more than we play.
All right, my brother from another mother, Alan Korwin. Thank you, my friend.
It was a pleasure. It was an honor.
Well, that's a good guy. Alan Korwin is his name. Korwin. And again, the website.